My name is SnoWhyte, and you're watching my channel. When you think of movies that air on Disney television networks, you probably think of Disney movies. And while Disney loves to plug their IP every chance they get, Disney used to play a variety of different movies on their various television networks, especially my favorite channel, Toon Disney. A lot of these movies fit into the fever dream category for me, and these are movies that I typically don't hear brought up very often, so I thought it would be fun to go over some of them. You guys voted for Fairies from 1999, and this is one I have very few memories of, but the ones I do are seared into my brain. Something about a boy eating a cake and it meaning he can't leave, a goblin, a raven, a baby. So grab a snack that isn't from Fairyland, and let's enter the fairy ring. Fairies was produced by Hit Entertainment, and as a British animated movie, it stars an all-British cast, with Kate Winslet as Bridget, Jeremy Irons as the Shapeshifter, Doug Ray Scott as the Fairy Prince Albrecht, Fred Regis George, and Carly O'Neill as Nelly. It released on July 9, 1999, and was later released on VHS in the United States in 2000 by Paramount Home Video. Fairies also aired on Toon Disney between January 2001 and October 2004. The movie currently sits at a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes and has a 3.2 on Letterboxd. And looking at the reviews and YouTube comments, it looks like I'm not the only one who thought they dreamed this movie. With all that said, let's jump into the plot. The movie opens with a sweeping shot of good old-fashioned 90s CGI. A raven flies overhead as we meet our two main characters, George and Nelly. Mr. and Mrs. Coombs are driving them to Fairy Oak Farm, where the kids will be staying while their parents pack and move house. The farmhand, Bridget, not Bridget, Bridget, greets the kids, and it's very clear that Nelly does not want to be here. George, on the other hand, is thrilled to be here, and he keeps going on about seeing something in the corner of his eye, but he's not quite sure what.
There's a window, George.
Mrs. Coombs shows them to their rooms.
Whoa, it's brilliant!
Okay, calm down, George. And Nelly continues to complain.
I want to go home. I don't care if I have to sleep on the floor because my bed's all packed up.
She drafts a letter to her mother asking to leave, while George tries to convince her to go out and explore. And as the kids are heading out, we see someone is watching them from the closet. Out in the forest, George is living his best life, and Nelly is getting spooked by the raven from the opening. George jumps into a puddle and exposes his webbed toes.
What are those?
And the raven begins to speak.
Two human children from otherwhere, 1 foot webbed, flaming hair. When they appear, the time is near.
Well, that's not ominous. George suggests that they play hide and seek, and while he's looking for a place to hide, he comes across a fairy ring with a glowing tree. He crosses the fairy ring and disappears just as Nelly finishes counting. She almost crosses the fairy ring while looking for him, but she's already tired of looking and just heads back to the farm. She really left her brother out in a forest they've never been to. That's cold. The raven follows after her, and turns out it's not a raven at all. This is our villain, the Shapeshifter. Nelly asks if he's seen her brother, and he just tells her that he's away with the fairies right out the gate.
An old witch told me you and the boy were the chosen ones.
Rightfully spooked, Nelly gets the hell out of Dodge. Back at the farm, she sees a honey cake and a fully crackling fire, so assumes that George has made it back safely. But following a hiccup, it's revealed who was watching them from earlier. This is the hobgoblin Broom, who also tells Nelly that George is away with the fairies. She doesn't believe him either at first, but asks if George was, theoretically, with the fairies. How would she get him back?
You'll have to get into Fairyland, which is sometimes easy, but most of the time impossible.
He clearly does not like the fairies, so Nelly bribes him with the rest of her honey cakes to take her to Fairyland. He shows her the way in.
Stand on one leg. Now, hold out one hand and close one eye. That, as you can now see, is the Fairy Oak, the way into Fairyland.
And warns her that nothing is what it seems, and reminds her not to eat anything, as she crosses the fairy ring into Fairyland. Where the other world we start out in is mostly animation with hints of CGI. Fairyland is a blend of live sets, hand-drawn animation, and CGI. Nelly comes across George and tries to get his attention, but he's busy playing with the fairies. Maryville, Chudley, Huckabee, and Starcross. They speak in a very Aussian way.
Expediently. I tried to be warning him. You will be here for an eternitude.
And take George to the prince before Nelly can catch up, so she chases on foot. A CGI beetle chases after Nelly, and it's revealed to be the Shapeshifter. He shifts into Broom and tries to convince her to drink some dew, but she's not falling for it. Maybe if he'd stop calling her my flower.
My little flower, my little flower.
He'd be more convincing. Nelly continues back on foot to chase after George and ends up at the prince's palace. And it's low-key giving 90's Elsa. Nelly comes running telling George not to eat just as he's eating. He introduces Nelly to the fairies and she tries to get them out of there, but
You are free to flee. The boy must stay. He has eaten of our food.
Nelly asks if there's any way out of this, but the fairies stay firm, insisting he has to stay. And they beg her to keep her voice down so she doesn't wake the prince. This gives Nelly an obvious idea.
Is he the ruler of Fairyland? If we make too much noise, he can hear us. Help! Help! Let us go!
This is the ruler of Fairyland, Prince Albrecht. He's caught up on the situation and asks Chudley if there's any loopholes. And then he just finds a loophole himself in the orb.
I can let you leave Fairyland if you will agree to complete 3 tasks.
The children agree to the deal, and he adds that they must not tell anyone, even Broom. The prince shakes Nelly's hand, and they appear back outside the fairy ring.
Was that a dream? I don't think so.
The kids get ready for bed, and George almost immediately spills the beans to Mrs. Coombs.
And you'll never guess what? I've had George!
Good job, George. And Mrs. Coombs tells Nelly that her letter has been sent to the carrier. So now there's a ticking clock.
Let's just hope we don't have to go before we finish those tasks.
In the morning, Maryville tells the kids to meet the prince at the fairy oak when the frost has melted from the window panes, and he will give them their first task. Once again, she reminds them not to tell anyone, and Broom is highly suspicious, continuously questioning them as they try to leave. And of course, they bump into Bridget, who's with her expecting friend Helen. And I'm sure George won't break the one rule they were given.
We're going to the fairy oak. George! I didn't say why.
Damn it, George. The women clearly don't believe George, but Helen humors him, asking how he knows which oak tree is the fairy oak tree. Capital V. But it's Bridget who chimes in.
It's obvious when you see it.
When Helen waddles away, her words not mine, George asks Bridget if she truly believes in fairies.
I've heard the most beautiful music coming from somewhere near that tree. I've never heard music like it anywhere else. So it must be fairies.
Sound logic, Bridget. Bridget tags along to the tree, while one of the shapeshifters is watching them. Huckabee, Maryvale, and Chudley are at the tree waiting when we learn that today is the prince's wedding to a princess who is also named Bridget. How ironic. The kids play hide and seek to distract the human Bridget while they ask the prince for their first task. But he doesn't hear a word they're saying. He is smitten with Bridget, and he tells us about the prophecy.
The Prince of Fairyland will wed a beauteous Bridget, astoundingly true bred.
The old first task is thrown out, and the new first task is to get Bridget into Fairyland. But the shapeshifter's minion is listening, and he goes to tattle. Down in his lair, the shapeshifter and 2 other minions are trying to think of a way to get rid of the prince, when the spying minion comes in cackling.
What's so funny? The prince has just fallen in love with a human.
Since Albrecht is going to break it off with the princess, the shapeshifter decides he's going to make things worse. And hopefully, the Princess Bridget takes the prince out, making it easier for the shapeshifter to take over. Back in the forest, Nelly and George have persuaded Bridget to go collect chestnuts. George leads her right to the fairy oak where the fairies lure her in. George proudly tells a confused Bridget that they're in Fairyland, and the prince welcomes her.
How do you know my name?
I have always known it.
And pops the question immediately, knowing nothing about her but love at first sight. She questions how, since she's human, and Chudley tells her the catch.
Marrying our prince would mean giving up your old life and everything, and everyone you know and love.
After info dumping on her, Albrecht takes her on a kingdom mini tour while they talk about destiny and somehow always having known each other. It doesn't take much convincing, and Bridget accepts the marriage proposal, much to the shapeshifter's delight. Princess Bridget is arriving for what she believes to be her wedding, and Albrecht assures that she'll understand since they're friends. For their second task, Albrecht sends George and Nelly with Huckabee to make a veil out of spiderweb silk, and everyone splits up to prepare for the wedding. The minions have been waiting though and take this opportunity to kidnap Prince Albrecht. The shapeshifter starts to tell him his evil scheme and gives us a major lore drop.
Sorry, brother dear. I need to take my rightful place. I would have if our father hadn't thrown me out.
The shapeshifter shifts into his brother and heads toward the kingdom. While searching for more webs to make the veil, Nelly overhears the shapeshifter as Albrecht, breaking things off with Princess Bridget. He's kind of rude, but she's totally fine being in the friend zone. When he tells her that he doesn't even want to be friends and starts verbally attacking the other fairy she brought with her, Nelly knows something is up.
You will get over me in time.
My little flower.
He continues insulting the princess and goads her into declaring war in the most misogynistic way possible.
Your kingdom obviously needs a man. I will do you all a royal favor and take it.
The fairies hop on their bees and dragonflies, and the war begins, with the shapeshifter Albert telling his guards to seize the princess. While trying to gain control of his bee, George spots the real prince, and he frees him. The shapeshifter has the princess captured, and he declares himself the ruler of all. George and the real fairy prince crash his victory speech. They try to do the whole
Who is who?
thing, but it's pretty obvious who is who. George catches everyone up, and one of the princes has the other one pinned. Everyone assumes the winner is the real prince, but Nelly knows better, and she gets him using the veil as a lasso. But he turns into a raven and flies away. Albert apologizes to the princess for the trouble that's been caused, and he doubles down on his love for Bridget, the human.
I am so happy that you have found the right Bridget.
She really did not want to marry this guy. The wedding is back on, but there's a huge problem. The veil was used as a lasso, so technically they didn't complete their second task. But Albert says that saving him counts as task 2, so I thought the rules weren't bendable.
Do you think the rules of Fairyland are made to be bent like a blade of grass in a sudden wind? Too much bending results in breaking.
Since the princess isn't getting married anymore, she gives her dress and her veil to Bridget, the human, and the wedding is on. No one says vows or anything. Prince Albert puts the veil on her. She becomes a fairy. They kiss. They're married now. Human Bridget is now a fairy princess, so the distinction of fairy or princess Bridget versus human Bridget no longer applies. The OG Princess Bridget never comes back anyway, so from this point on, if I say princess, fairy, or Bridget, it's the same person. Got it? Good. Nelly and George try to sneak off to give them some alone time, but Bridget follows after to say goodbye.
But what should we tell Mr. and Mrs. Coombs?
Have no worries, it has all been taken care of.
2 tasks down, 1 to go.
Back at the farm, Mr. Coombs tells the kids that Bridget left them a letter, and Mrs. Coombs informs them that Helen's baby has been born. Nelly asks Huckabee and Maryville to have Bridget meet them at the oak tonight so they can tell her about the baby. As Nelly and George wander through the snow to the oak, the shapeshifter's minions follow them. There's also this horrible scream. It happens more than once, and it's never acknowledged or addressed. I'd be heading back home. They meet with Bridget, and Nelly hides her in her pocket so she can see the baby. But the shapeshifter overheard everything, and it seems like the shapeshifter has a new plan up his sleeve. The kids show up to Helen's and ask if they can see the baby, so she lets them in, telling them she's tired so they can go on up, but she'll stay down here to put her feet up. Bridget takes this opportunity to come out of hiding and admire the little one.
Your mother would be very surprised to know that you have a real live fairy godmother.
But the sweet moment is cut short by the minions grabbing Bridget. And surprise!
You're not Helen.
Very good, my pretty.
And he's not a baby either.
The shapeshifter says he'll give the baby back if they bring him the royal orb, and he flies off with the baby in tow. The kids take Bridget and head for the fairy oak where they pass the sleeping prince and steal the orb. They meet back up with the shapeshifter and hand it on over. Asking for the baby back, they rush back to Helen's and put him back.
You've done it now, and you don't even know what.
And George goes back to the farm for some shut-eye, while Nelly takes Bridget back to Fairyland. And when they see the prince, they realize what they've done.
The orb gives us our youth and beauty.
If it is not in our possession, we will all perish.
Not knowing what else to do, Bridget and Nelly seek out Broom, who makes them a fake orb to switch out for the real one. The minions are celebrating their victory, and Bridget is stuck outside due to an enchanted spider web, so the kids go in alone, using the 3 kids in a trench coat trick. Well, 2 kids and an orb in this case.
Don't you care to dance? I'll take that as a yes.
They successfully switch out the orbs and book it back to the palace, putting the orb back just in time.
You were not to know.
And the shapeshifter knew that you did not know.
With the shapeshifter now under the assumption that all the fairies are gone, they decide now is the time to strike. Still thinking he's in possession of the orb, the shapeshifter goes out to claim his throne. A minion catches sight of Starcross and tries to tell his boss, but he is not listening.
Your Majesty! To the palace!
He passes the kids and starts thanking them, but realizes his minions have been captured, and there's a whole fairy army here for him. He finally realizes that the orb is fake, and he transforms into a fire-breathing insect. Not sure about the logistics on that one. Albert faces him head-on and hits him with some orb bolts.
Your power is now locked safely in the orb. You are destroyed!
The shapeshifter and his minions are tied together and put in an unescapable dungeon.
Your rightful place, just as the prophecy told.
And as everyone celebrates, George almost eats another fairy cake. Damn it, George. And Chudley reminds them that they still have one task left to complete. Albert says putting his brother away forever should take care of that task. And he decrees that not only is George free from the fairy claim on his life, he is free to eat all the fairy cakes he wants without consequence. The kids head back to the farm and tell Broom everything everything is fixed. Mrs. Coombs tells them about the telegram from their mother asking if they'd like to leave, but Nelly decides she'd like to stay now. And the movie ends with Broom trying to kill Fairy for funsies. This movie leaves me conflicted, so I'll start with the things that I like. The live action set reminds me of the Wizard of Oz Munchkinland, and I love the blend of animation on a live action set. Bridget's dress and transformation are also a highlight for me, and the premise of eating the cake and completing the tasks is intriguing. However, in execution, there's a lot to be desired. Let's talk about what I didn't like. The voice acting is bad.
You're covered? I think not.
I'm so sorry. It's just not good. Especially Nelly and George.
Oh, no, let us go! But no!
I'm also not a big fan of having two climaxes in a movie. While the baby has much higher stakes than the wedding, I consider the fairy war to also be a climax. It feels like a natural end, yet they still have two more tasks to complete. This makes the pacing feel incredibly off, and leaves it feeling like either a rough draft or two movies spliced together. One thing that really confused me is when they steal the baby, the shapeshifter in the corner is Helen, and then he says that's not a baby, but the baby is there, and never changes. On the first watch, I thought that both Helen and the baby were never there until they passed by her to put the baby back in the crib at the end. But maybe that's just viewer error. And that's Fairies from 1999. It's available on YouTube, and I'll have it linked below with my sources if you'd like to watch it. This video has taken much longer than I wanted it to. You may have noticed my hair changing color between the beginning and the middle, but hopefully you enjoyed revisiting this fever dream with me. If you did, please consider leaving a like as it does help out the channel, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. I'll be covering Toon Disney's big movie show, which has me super excited. Thank you so much if you made it this far, and as always my friends, stay positive, stay safe, and stay tuned.